It is noon in Texas. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Good there. Hey guys, good afternoon. My show, it's 12:01 up here in Texas. Thank you for joining the channel today. We got kind of a unique show for you today. I'm going to be interviewing Dan and Bob from the ARDC, Amateur Radio Digital Communications Group. I don't know if they're a club or a group or an entity or a enterprise. I don't know, whatever they are. They're a nice group of ham radio operators that gives out grants to certain ham radio nonprofit organizations. So we're going to learn more about that today. I did want to make a couple of quick announcements. We will be now, Dan KB6NU, who you guys should know, have anybody who's on Twitter and anybody who does CW more than I do. Should know KB6NU. He does the no nonsense technical study guides. He does a lot of operation on CW for contesting and whatnot, but just kind of playing around because I follow him on Twitter and he's like, "Well, 40's dead. I'm going to 80. Well, 80's. Oh, I made just contact with so and so on 80." So he does a lot of DX stuff like that. He's going to be the one teaching the class that we have upcoming on November 12th. I wanted to share that little bump trailer with you that I made real quick. So stand by right here. Do you want to get your brand new ham radio license? It's 2022 and the question pool has changed. The new question pool updated in July of this year, and on November 12th, we are going to offer a one-day technician class. If you or someone in your family or someone you know, someone in your local club has come in and wants a live in-person training, we're going to offer a free technician class in one day on this channel on November 12th. Sign up at the link below, which is hr2.li/new tech class. New tech class, no spaces. Sign up with your email address to be invited to the free Zoom webinar that we will be hosting on November 12th. Space is limited, so sign up as soon as you can. So here it is, the first technician class of 2022 with the new question pool on this channel, Ham Radio 2.0, on November 12th. Sign up at the link below. Hope to see you there. That's going to be a fun class because I tell you what, I've got over 1,200 videos on YouTube over the last 7.5 years, and the most popular video that I have by far, the most watched video, the most viewed, is the technician class that the Hearst Amateur Radio Club and I say we did it. They did it, and I just streamed it back in 2020, right after the lockdown started, because they do these live in-person classes every year, twice a year, usually in the fall and the fall and the spring, and they couldn't do it because of the lockdown. So I'm like, hey guys, let's bring you on the channel. We'll just do a live stream. We did 3 live streams over 3 days, and that first one is by far the most watched video on my channel. 7.5 years on YouTube. That video is 2 years old. So I'm really, really looking forward to this new class because a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to do the new question pool? When are you going to? This is going to be the new question pool, and it's all going to be one day. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's hop into this here with Dan and Bob from ARDC, and bring you guys on there. Hey guys, good afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Hey, great here in Michigan.
Good. So Dan, I know you're up in Michigan, aren't you?
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Right. Yeah. Bob, where are you?
Monument, Colorado.
Okay. Monument, Colorado. I'm not sure where that is.
Okay. About halfway between Denver and Colorado Springs.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I've been through there, I think, but it's been a long time. Cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on the channel today. I got to talk with John. And if you say his call sign, I'll recognize it, but I can't quote it right now. But he was at the Tapper event last September. And I talked to him kind of about doing some training videos, whatnot, what ARDC is all about. Not the first time I met John, but, got to catch up with him. And got to talk with the M17 guys. They've been on the channel 2 or 3 times. And, of course, they're one of the recipients of the ARDC, one of your ARDC grants because of their new digital voice codec and digital voice mode they're working on for amateur radio. So let's start with explaining to everybody what ARDC is, Amateur Radio Digital Communications, and what you guys are all about, and then we'll just kind of let it go from there. So once again, thanks for being here. Whoever wants to take it can feel free.
Sure.
Let me interject. John is K7 Victor Echo.
That's him, K7 Victor Echo. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Right. So Amateur Radio Digital Communications, or ARDC, is actually a private foundation. And our goal is to support and promote amateur radio and digital communication science, hence the two parts of our name. And the history of ARDC is really quite fascinating. And I get a big smile on my face every time I tell this story. So back in the early days of the internet, Hank Magnuski, KA6M, who's still a volunteer with ARDC, had the idea to request a block of internet addresses from the person, John Postel at the time, who was doling them out. And Postel thought that was a good idea and gave us a block of 16 million addresses. All of the yeah, I know, it's incredible.
It's crazy
really,
to think about that today, but back then it was like, oh, here you go, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And if you in fact, if you look at the chart showing who got what addresses, it says AT&T and Xerox, which was big at the time in networking, and then the 44 net block is assigned to amateur radio experimentation. It wasn't even assigned to a particular organization. And that block of addresses was administered by an ad hoc group of hams for quite a long time. Phil K9Q was one of those, and there was a bunch of other folks involved in doing this, all on an ad hoc volunteer basis. So along about 2011, Brian Cantor, who had become sort of the West Coast coordinator, and led a group that formed the nonprofit corporation. That's different than a nonprofit foundation. And he decided that they decided that probably would be a good idea to form a nonprofit corporation because again, these addresses really weren't assigned to anybody except amateur radio experimentation. So they said, well, we should have an organization that's responsible for those addresses. And that's how ARDC was really formed in 2011. So fast forward up to 2019. At that time, the addresses were being used, but we never got up to even half the amount of addresses. So the thought was, well, why don't we sell a bunch of them since they're very valuable, and using those funds, we can then set up a private foundation to award grants to amateur radio and digital communications projects. And so that's what they did. In 2019, they sold a quarter of the address space, or 4 million addresses, to a big internet retailer, which I can't mention, for a sum of money, which I also can't mention legally.
Okay.
But this is all public record. If someone's really interested, they can look this up on the internet. Okay. And that began our journey into seriously starting to make grants. And in 2020, we started, 2020, we started hiring staff. Rosie Schechter, who was our executive director, was the first hire. And then she hired a grants manager, Chelsea Paraga. Then me, I was number 3. I'm their communications manager. And then we hired an administrator. Oh, then John K7VE, he's our outreach manager. And then Meredith Stroh, who's our administrative director. And our latest hire now is a technical director. And this is John Kemper. He's going to be responsible for a lot of different technology development projects. And now we have the staff, we have the money in the bank, and I think we're doing some amazing things.
Good. Okay. And yeah, I wasn't sure how many of that. I knew that part of it had been sold. I did not know that it was 1/4 of 4 million addresses. So
Right.
that's good info. Yeah, and I'm curious to see I'm curious to know how much you guys got for that, but understood about the legalities of it, so that's no problem. So
it's like I say, it's all on the internet, so you can find it.
I always tell people that the last time I looked at ARDC's financial records, there were greater than $100 million in assets. So that gives you an idea of what ARDC has in terms of assets.
And
sure.
As a private foundation, we have to give out, we have to actually award in grants 5% of that. So that gives you an idea of how much we're giving out each year.
5% per year.
Correct.
Okay. Right. Is that a minimum or a maximum?
That's a minimum.
Okay. So you can do more than that.
We can. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's an average over a number of years.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good deal. Okay. So y'all wanted to talk about the process to apply for or how the grant system works. I've got a screen share right here that this is ampr.org, AmperNet, which is this is ARDC's website as far as I can tell because it's got the logo over here, but it's amper.org.
Right. And so that's actually a little bit of a historical thing too.
Okay.
So when it was first formed, it was called AmperNet. The 44 block was called AmperNet. That stood for Amateur Packet Radio Network.
Gotcha.
So our website is amper.org, but shortly it'll be changing to ardc.net, and both will get you there.
Yeah, they're intermingled, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that's kind of a historical thing.
Hey, before we jump into grants, I think, Dan, it's important we point out that there's really two major roles for ARDC. There's the grants piece, and we'll dig deeper, but there's still the 44 net that needs to be managed. And so that's an important thing that we do. And we have the technical advisory committee that's involved with that. And they've been doing a bunch of work to try and figure out what the needs are. It's very active and everything, but they're trying to, figure out how to take it to the next level. And there's going to be considerable investment into making that happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So we do have two major activities. One being administration of 44net, and then the second being the grants program. And
gotcha.
Because of that, we have two committees that are made up of volunteers that help the staff do this work. One is the technical advisory committee, and then the other is the grants committee, which Bob is the chair of.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Good. Excellent.
So we can dig into grants.
Sure.
We've got some data. This is all 2022. We're not done with 2022. We're in our last cycle. We do 4 cycles of funding, and my committee looks at all the grants requested and makes recommendations to the board of directors. The board of directors have ultimate decision-making power, so they actually make the decision, but we're the team that's digging through, all the details of what was submitted and trying to sort things out. I think we'll probably this year finish with maybe like 80 grants awarded, and it'll probably in the neighborhood of $6 million, just to give you an idea. Don't hold me to those numbers because we're not done yet, but that's kind of what it's looking like.
No, that's pretty cool. Okay.
And like I said, we have 4 cycles during the year. It's all out on the website with specific deadlines to submit, and then once the submissions come in, the grants committee takes a look at all those and makes recommendations, and the board decides. And then about that time, we're ready for the next cycle. And so we're in our last cycle right now. A couple of things, we look at grants in 3 categories. There's growth of amateur radio, which is kind of a catch-all. It's like anything that helps amateur radio. And then the second category is education. Underneath education, there's a significant amount that we donate to scholarships. And there's also, I'd call them, educational programs like STEM programs for middle school, high school, universities, that sort of thing. And then the third major area is we call it R&D, but it's technical work that is moving amateur radio forward. Although it's not all amateur radio, as Dan mentioned, we're also interested in digital communications in general. So we've funded some programs that are oriented towards some digital communications projects that are not specific to ham radio, which we think that's an important thing as well.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, I pulled up the list. This is all on the website of some of the grants we've issued this year. As I mentioned, a lot of scholarships. We work with the ARL on that. We funded a bunch of their scholarships this past year. We've donated to, that's the webpage. Society of Women Engineers has a scholarship program we support. OMIC Radio Club has scholarships we help with. And then some of the more amateur radio things, we have like university radio clubs. We've done a bunch of donations there that help them either get a ham station established or get it updated. We've had museums that we've supported. Like there's a number of museums around the country and around the world. We're not just U.S., right? We grant worldwide.
That was a question that just came up in the chat. One of our watchers from over in Europe, Andy, he's here all the time. He was asking, are they just USA or can UK or worldwide apply?
So we're worldwide. In fact, I would say we're trying to encourage more folks outside of the U.S. to apply for grants.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an important point. Let's see. There's an organization in southeastern Colorado. They've got a giant dish out there that they point at the moon and other places. They're called the Deep Space Exploration Society. They're very ham radio oriented, but they do kind of general radio astronomy stuff as well. And so we gave them a nice grant to help them upgrade that facility out there. Tapper, Tucson Amateur Packet Radio, well-known organization. They've got a project called the Tangerine SDR project. So that would fit under the R&D category. We've funded some of that work.
And you've mentioned M17 already.
M17 is another good one. That's really foundational, new digital voice modulation protocols. We think that's pretty important. We've been funding that. I mentioned museum thing already, and a bunch of clubs have asked for, especially ARDC organizations, they'll ask for communications trailers of various types, and so we've funded a bunch of those. And then another thing that's hot is pretty common is people doing linked repeater systems. Will either help them expand their network or upgrade their network, or in a lot of cases, you get into the this mesh communications being done on the higher, above up in the multi-gigahertz bands. We funded a bunch of projects to help with that as well. Those are infrastructure projects, right? They really help support ham radio in a variety of ways. So Dan, anything I missed? I mean, we could go on and on, but the list is out on the website.
Yeah, I would suggest people look at the website, because every time we make a grant, we post a short description of it there, and with links to the organizations getting the grants, where they can usually get more information about the projects. And if someone has any questions about any of those projects, they can contact me, and I'll make sure it gets forwarded to the right person.
Yeah,
perfect. Okay.
And those are good examples of projects we're interested in. So if someone has a museum project, for example, they can look at what we've done in the past and perhaps model their proposal on those grants.
Now we don't have to dive into this too deeply, but I want to say welcome to Steve from M17 Project, KC1AWV. He's in the chat. But Bob Greenberg's in the chat also, founder of RFinder. And RFinder is a for-profit business. They're not a 501c3. So how does it work? Are your grants only available to like nonprofits, I guess? And you don't have to go into it real deep, but just give me like kind of an overview of how that works.
You want to go do that, Bob? Well, I can do that. I can do it. You're right. We can only give grants to nonprofit organizations or educational institutions at this time. So, and we will probably never give a grant to a commercial venture. So I think that if you looked at what RFinder is doing, for example, they're supporting M17 with their radios.
Yes.
All the work they did was not funded. None of the work they did was funded by ARDC.
Right.
Having said that, M17 is all open source. So that's another requirement we have. So if we're funding a technology development project, all of that's open source. So RFinder could use that work to improve their radios, or add features to their radios. And it's all licensed under one form of open source license or another.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah, I just kind of wanted that to thrown out there. I made a I was talking to John at the Tapper DC Digital Communications Conference, September, I guess that was, and last month, and he said something to me, and I think he was teasing me or something. I said something back to him. I was like, "Well, you can give me one of your grants. I got a YouTube channel about ham radio, but I don't have a 501c3. I'm not a nonprofit at all." So he's like, "Well," I was like, "Dude, I'm joking with you. I don't. I mean, you're welcome to give me some money if you want to, but that's not. I was just messing with you because you were messing with me first. So, but yeah, I think it's important to understand, because most of your ham radio clubs are 501c3s or some rendition of a nonprofit. Of course, ARRL is, and Tapper is, and I saw in there you guys, one of your grantees was the University of Scranton for their amateur radio station, and Nathaniel did a presentation on that at the DCC last month. That's going to be really cool. I'm going up there to record their HamSci event next March, and that he's hoping to have most of that done by then. So that I said we'll just do a walkthrough of it, because that'll be a cool or a cool video to record about a real life amateur radio station used for teaching hams and getting hams licensed at a real college university. So that's a fun project as well.
Right, and even over and above that, the folks that are participating in those projects are going to be not just hams. They're going to be electrical engineers and other kind of scientists, and that's what we're supporting.
Right.
Keep in mind
Go ahead, Bob.
Keep in mind the 501c3 thing is a U.S. IRS thing, right? So
correct.
Outside the U.S., we're looking for the equivalent of that, and we've got people on staff that know how to navigate that whole thing. But it's really, the basic idea is nonprofit, and the other important thing is what Dan mentioned, is open source. This no proprietary content. Anything we fund needs to be available to everybody. So that gets in the way of funding any kind of business activity that's proprietary.
Yeah, understood. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. So okay, what next?
So
Well,
I wanted to
go
talk
ahead.
about the grants committee a little bit.
Okay.
So I've got
Okay.
10 people on the grants committee. I'm the chair, and I got to tell you, I'm having a lot of fun because I mean, this is such a unique opportunity to have this much money available to help ham radio. And our staff has been doing a great job of getting the word out that this money is available. So we got all these proposals coming in. We're sifting through them. I'd say uh, well, about 80% of them are just really good, interesting projects. And then our challenge is to figure out which ones we're going to fund, really which ones we recommend to fund for the board. And so I've got this team of 10 people that do that. We are seeing some turnover this year. We've got a number of reasons. We're looking for additional committee members. So people that are interested in helping out. For me personally, it's been a place where I can give back to the ham radio community, and we got the funds to really do something. So those two things together are pretty good. In terms of GAC membership, we're looking for people who, typically they're going to have an amateur radio license, but it's not required. A technical degree or experience in digital communications. Most of, I guess, everybody on the committee right now, it does have a ham license. We're mostly from the U.S. We're definitely interested in getting more members from outside the U.S.
Okay.
And so anyway, if that's of interest to people, they can go to the website, and there's a link there we're taking applications right now. They're due by November 12th, and then the volunteer role will start next year in January, and it's a one year assignment.
1 year commitment.
And the technical advisory committee is looking for people as well. They'd like to expand their membership a bit, and I think the deadline's the same. I think it's November 12th, and they're looking more for people with networking experience, and to help drive what happens on the 44 net.
Okay. Grants Advisory Committee and Technical. It took me a second to find it, but over here in this right-hand column, latest news
the right there.
is links to go and apply for that if anyone's interested in that. Amper.org is the website. Okay, good.
And those two pages explain the roles of those two committees, the amount of time that you might expect to put in if you're appointed to one of those committees, and the type of work that these committees do.
Right.
Okay. Perfect.
Like the technical, let's talk about the technical advisory committee a little bit.
Sure.
So now, so we mentioned before that ARDC sort of has two parts of the house. One is 44net, and one is the grants program. And the technical advisory committee's role is to advise the staff and the board on 44net technology. And we were involved in a number of projects now to improve the use and operation of 44net. For example, one of the way someone might request 44net addresses now is we have we call the portal. So someone goes there and sets up an account and requests an address. And there's been some talk that portal is perhaps not as easy to use as we might like. And so there's a project now to enhance that portal. There's also a project underway to enhance the way we connect 44net addresses. We call that the Points of Presence project. And the technical advisory committee will be involved in all these projects,
Gotcha.
advising us on them. And just to throw in a third thing here on the technical advisory committee, like I mentioned earlier, we recently hired a technical director, John KA6NVY. And those projects and the technical advisory committee are sort of going to be under his direction, or he's going to be the staff liaison to the technical advisory committee. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
on those 2 pages, there's instructions on how to apply, and we hope to get some great candidates. As Bob said, this has been they're just like a wonderful organization, and we'd like to continue doing the great work we've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah, the technical advisory committee is chaired by Pierre Victor Echo 2 Papa Foxtrot.
Canadian. Okay.
Canadian. That's outside the U.S.
Yeah, that's outside. That count. I always tell Canadians thank you for the DX when I'm working them on Parks in the Air, and they're like, "Well," I was like, "Hey, man, cross the border. It counts." I could talk to Canada easier than I talk to Alaska, but that's all right. So yeah, good. Well, I'm glad that it's good that you guys are not restricting it to only the U.S. and the evidence of that is that there's people on these committees that are from outside the U.S. So good deal.
Yeah, and we really made an effort to do that. The Grants Advisory Committee has at least 1, maybe 2 members outside the U.S.
Just one right now.
Just one. Yeah, and so we're trying to expand the the worldwideness of it.
Sure.
Okay. Because why? Because that's amateur radio, right? That's international.
Yeah.
Right.
It's international in scope, and we want to reflect that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Okay. Perfect. I'd like to. We don't have to do this on this stream, but I'd like to get one of you guys on, or maybe John, whoever you think would be most knowledgeable, to come on to another live stream and talk about how to set up Net44 and how to route it to, like, I've got a C bridge for DMR that has a static IP address at my web or my data center for my web host. I just did a live stream with Kyle AA0Z, and we set up a All-Star hub at the same web host, which has a different static IP. It would be really fun to get Net44 assigned to those systems, but I don't know exactly how to do that. I kind of know maybe a little bit how to do that. But even if I did know how to do it, I still think it'd be a really fun live stream to come on here and do a step-by-step process for registering Net44, getting however many blocks of IPs that you assign, because they're all static IPs.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, all you guys, all the IPs, like, you get your own static IPs assigned to you, however many it is, when you get a block, and those you can use on, like, I've heard guys using them on D-Star repeaters, but I could use them on an All-Star hub or a C bridge or a DMR repeater, or any kind of repeater with an internet connection, I suppose, and go from there. So that'd be a fun live stream, I think.
Yeah, I think you've hit on one of the sort of the shortcomings of 44net. It's not necessarily really easy to get involved in it unless you already know a lot about it. And that's one of the projects we're going to be working on.
Good.
And so having a live stream to show that would be a good deal. And I'll make a note of that and see what we can do. Okay,
perfect. Excellent. So, okay. Well, what else? What else you guys have for us today?
I think that's about it. Unless you got something, Bob.
No, I think this is great. Thanks for having us on, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Once again, that website is amper.org, and I'll share that in the chat again right now. And all of the websites and links that we spoke about in this live stream. Of course, the live stream will be replayable on YouTube forever once YouTube kind of processes it. I'll put those in the description below, so you guys can click on those and go check those out and everything. Anybody who's interested in joining one of the committees can apply. Anybody that's interested who applying for a grant can apply from a different link on the page as well. So we'll add all that to the live stream so that people coming back for team replay can take advantage of that as well.
And I don't want to speak for Bob here, but I think he'll agree with me. If any of you have questions about joining these committees, feel free to get in touch with us before you apply.
Oh yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure Pierre would talk to you about the technical advisory committee. Also, it's probably worth mentioning, we do have, as Dan mentioned, we have staff in place. So if you get into the grants process, applying for a grant, there's people there to help. It's not just a website and you're sort of stuck. They'll interact with you and if you have questions about that, you can get advice and help you navigate the whole thing. So it works pretty well.
Good. Excellent. Well, this is great info. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, actually. If I'm not mistaken, and I know you said this up front, Dan, but I think you said 2019. So I had talked to John about John did a presentation about Net 44 at the very first digital communications conference I went to, which I think was in either 2017 or 18. I can't remember right now.
Yeah, it was in that time frame.
Somewhere in there. And then I didn't put two and two together that ARDC was the same group until just recently, like maybe shortly before the Digital Communications Conference this year. And I'm like, oh, that's their new name, as it were, because you used to be AMPER and now you're ARDC. So, just kind of putting all that out there and just getting the information out to people and letting people know what it is, who it is, where it's coming from, that kind of thing. I think that's a really great process. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out today and reaching out to me and asking to come on to the live stream, because this is something that I'm glad you thought of, because I kind of wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure where to go. So, Dan, it was great to hear from you. And because when I saw your message, I'm like, that's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while now. So it's really good info, I think.
Well, if you or anybody else has any sort of just basic questions about ARDC, please get in contact with me.
Okay.
Dan@ardc.net.
Perfect. Dan@ardc.net. Cool.
Or you could use my other email address, which is on qrz.com.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, same here. qrz.com
Okay.
will get you my email.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time this afternoon. Again, I'll send you a permanent link to this live stream, and that will be replayable, and you can refer it to people if you want to, or if you want to post it on your website, you can do that as well.
We definitely will.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm happy to share it, whatnot. But Dan, looking forward to the class here in a couple weeks, and make a note about Net 44, and we'll do something separate for that as well, because I think that'd be a really good session.
Will do.
Okay. Well, Dan and Bob, thank you both for your time today. Guys, I'm going to go ahead. We usually go for an hour, but hey, it's 40 minutes, and I think that's good for today. We covered the topic, and appreciate everyone being here. My wife and I are hitting the road here in just a minute. Hey, Bob and Dan, you guys hold on for just a second here. My wife and I are hitting the road here in just a second, and we're going to be driving down to Galveston, so I'll be monitoring my All-Star Hub. You guys go connect to my All-Star Hub at 43136, and I'll do an after chat while we're driving south to Galveston. So 73 all, thanks for being here today, and hope to talk to you soon.